sight, so I can see. And twilight has to be.
Wow. Well, welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. You are here with Ramon and Tom in our inaugural show with the Truth Frequency guys. Thanks, Chris and Cherie, for all that you guys do. We hope to have a fruitful and enjoyable and informative time with you guys here on Truth Frequency. So... Yay! So, hopefully we get a lot of new listeners, and a lot of our old listeners pop on over to the Truth Frequency and check out some of the other shows here too, because they've got a hell of a good lineup.
Yeah, and you guys will be able to call us in. Do we want to take phone calls in the first hour or the second hour?
I tell you what, we'll let the phone calls come in as they come in. But actually, this was kind of a little bit of a cluster getting us all set up tonight. We had some stuff went foolard, and anyways, we're working on getting everything running, and if we can figure out the phone interface, then we will be taking calls for sure. But I think for the first hour, we'll pretty much stick to talking to our guest, which happens to be a returning guest for Ramon and I, which we've had on. Oh, how many times have we had her on, Ramon? 5 times?
No, more than that.
Yeah, well, we have
at least between 7 and 8.
Yeah, we have Miss Crystal Clark with us tonight, and for those of you who don't know her, this lady has done some amazing work in the few short years that she's been here on this planet. She's a woman with a mission. And that mission is bringing truth to the front. So bringing it out so that we can all actually understand what the hell is going on here and work on forming our future, forming it in a little bit more of a productive manner, I think. I don't know. So, Ramon, anything going on? Well, let's see. First of all, if you guys can get a hold of us at our website at www.the100thmonkeyradio.com, and we'll be back after this break
Why do the children feel lost in this world? Believing the impossible dream. Why do the people feel down in this world? Believing the impossible dream. Why do the children feel lost in this world? Believing the impossible dream. Why do the people feel down in this
Did you know that the blue lotus flower was used by the ancient Egyptians as an aphrodisiac to experience feelings of euphoria and ecstasy? And ecstasy. And ecstasy. Did you know that Thai kratom was used by the Buddhist monks to produce a relaxing and dreamlike state? Did you know San Pedro cactus was used by the Native Americans to quest for visions and heal the body? Bouncing Bear Botanicals is your #1 supplier of rare and sacred plants and a proud sponsor of Truth Frequency Radio. By clicking on the banner at truthfrequencyradio.com, you can learn more about a vast selection of entheogens, including Amanita muscaria, also known as the sacred mushroom. So click on the banner at truthfrequencyradio.com, and you'll also get up to $40 off your next order.
In an emergency situation, would you drink contaminated water? You could if you had the amazing LifeStraw from MyPatriotSupply.com. LifeStraw is the most advanced personal water filter available today. It filters contaminated water from almost any source. LifeStraw is lightweight and compact, perfect for hiking, camping, or in an emergency like a flood. LifeStraw is easy to clean, comes with a 1-year warranty, and has been used worldwide since 2005. Get the amazing LifeStraw personal water filter at MyPatriotSupply.com. Plus, check out Survival Seed Vault, 20 seed varieties for only $37.95, Tatler canning lids, long-term storable foods as low as $69.95, and much more at MyPatriotSupply.com. Enjoy stress-free shipping on all orders over $49. Call 866-229-0927 or visit MyPatriotSupply.com. That's 866-229-0927, MyPatriotSupply.com, for emergency preparedness, self-reliance, and food independence.
Looking for the best and most cost-efficient way to purify your water? Head on over to GoBerkey.com and get the tried and tested Berkey water purification system. All of our Berkeys feature our patented black Berkey elements that remove contaminants from many water sources, including tap water, creek water, and much, much more. Use it daily at home while camping or in an emergency. Our Berkey water purification systems are designed to produce pure drinking water wherever you are. Are you using other filtration systems, maybe spending hundreds of dollars a year replacing filters? Get a Berkey Light and produce clean, pure drinking water for a family of 5 for years, not months. Go to GoBerkey.com right now and look for our exclusive package deals on the most trusted water filtration systems. For best prices, fast shipping, and customer service, go to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. That's 877-886-3653. Or go to GoBerkey.
Well, welcome back. We are Tom and Ramon in the Hundredth Monkey Radio, and we have Crystal Clark with us. And I just got to explain something here real quick. I don't know that we're going to be able to take calls this week, but oh boy, I was really hoping to be able to do that. Maybe we can work something out with Chris if he's still standing by in the background there. I think it would be a good thing to do. But anyways, Crystal, welcome.
How are you? Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction and for having me on. I've missed you guys.
Oh, we missed you too. We've been kind of keeping tabs on you. You've been doing quite a bit of stuff with James Horak.
I have. I've been very busy behind the scenes. I've actually written quite a bit, but I haven't released a lot of it yet. I think timing is important, so I'm kind of holding some of that back.
Yeah, I heard you mention that you were thinking about doing some revamping on 101. Is that correct?
Yes. In the background, I'm working on that. But in the meantime, I've produced a blog. It's called drowninginabsurdity.wordpress.com. That I think the purpose of that is to really pare down to what I think the focus really needs to be, which is what I would have refocused on in the second book. And it's there for free. Because I think that it's important to share the information as quickly as possible. Right.
Definitely. So, what kind of things have you been looking at in the last? We've been 6 or 8 months since we've talked to you. What has been brought onto your meter, so to say, your radar?
Well, I think what really kind of has my attention right now is the width and depth and breadth of the social engineering and perception management going on right now on this planet, and how that severely limits the full expression of an individual's free will. I think that's very disturbing, and I think that if we can see that for what it is, we can get past it. There was, around the time of the elections, I was watching this commentator on regular television. It was after the elections. And she was really very, very intelligent, really with the program, beautiful, beautiful lady. And she was commenting about how, well, if maybe Romney had done this, he would have, fared better in the election. And that moment really flipped a switch for me, because I'm looking at this woman and I'm realizing that everything she's saying is based on a concept of reality that has been dictated to her. And that this beautiful, bright woman has never, ever in her entire life been allowed to really express herself beyond that dictated and predetermined version of reality. And I found it exceptionally disturbing. And I think that this is something that we really have to recognize and get past. You know, it's cruel. You know what I mean? It's very cruel to do that to people. We don't. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it reminds me of the whole A and B, but they don't tell you about C and D, for example. Like here in Japan, they're like, okay, we're going to have to raise the prices on electricity unless we turn on the nuclear power plants back on, because this other way of making electricity is a lot more expensive. But they never mention any of the other choices that you can have with electricity on making electricity cheaply. They just mention the one they want and then make the other one look really bad.
Yeah. You know, Ramon, I saw an article today about Japan and how this whole election is centering around power generation, about electricity, and that everybody in Japan should expect to see the nuclear plants being turned back on.
Yeah, they were actually really fighting them in Fukushima. There's this documentary called The Six Women of Fukushima, and it's an amazing documentary, and the guys just the women up there are really fighting this really hard. So in the way, it's waking up a lot of people here, seeing their government for what it is. But this is not about me, this is about Crystal. So.
Well, that's a very good example, because people are not going to make choices they don't know they have, which is how people's free will and their right to express it fully is limited. And when we ask ourselves, whom does that serve? I think we get a better understanding of really kind of where we're at. There's an article that I've been working on for about a week that I had hoped to have done before this show. It's close. I'll post it this evening, that discusses a lot of this. But our reality has been dictated to us in a way that protects the people. It protects their seats of power over us as long as we are in this little box. And this is our officially sanctioned view of reality that has been predefined for us and that we are allowed, quote, to operate within. And when we can recognize that, we can see that almost everything going on is about defending that box, the parameters, the perimeter of it, so that we don't ever breach it. And this is where thought police come in. And when we recognize that, we can see that this is not a new phenomenon, certainly, because if we go back to the witch hunts, right?
Right.
What was that about? That was the thought police coming in and saying, you're operating outside of the parameters of reality that we have dictated to you. And they were punished. And we very much have that same thing happening right now. And a big part of getting through this box has, for us, been the internet. Because the propaganda and the perception management is largely done through media. That's how certain ideas are seeded into the collective consciousness. This was much, much easier to do when people weren't communicating with each other. So our perceptions of reality were dictated to us about other countries and their leaders and their cultures. So it was easy to define them as our enemies. But through the internet, we started talking to these people on our own. We bypassed that. And we realized that things didn't add up, you see. And this is why the internet is really a giant collective mind. And it is a collective mind that bypasses their version of what we should understand and consider reality. And this is why the internet has now been officially included as part of the battlefield, you see.
Right, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important that we really get a good grasp on how this box is defined and how it protects the people that operate outside of it, because those 4 lines that create that box and those parameters, where our freedom ends when we hit those walls, is where their power begins on the other side, you see. Mm. So the thought police have been around for a very, very long time. And when the thought police get involved, and again, this goes back to an officially sanctioned version of reality that protects them, it keeps them in power. When the use of strong arm tactics, like the witch hunts, for example, only has a limited time of use, because once people realize they are being openly persecuted, they go underground. So the thought police then have to begin to adapt to the way we've responded. And the adaptation to direct, like I said, like the witch hunts and whatnot,
right,
has been to give people the illusion that they do have a free and open society. And what this has done has allowed us to tell on ourselves, right? Based on, well, yes, this is what I believe, and this is what I think, and these are the people I hang out with. And this is all, I wrote a lot about this in the first book, about data mining, and how this is used to learn your patterns of behavior. Marketing companies primarily used it to reach deeper into your pockets by manipulating your emotions. But we have the government involved in a way that protects the borders of this box. So this is part of learning who the dissenters and the heretics are, because
right,
they're outing themselves, you see. And I think what really bothers me about this is that the box is shrinking, because there are holes in it, there are leaks. We're dissolving it by direct communication with each other. And part of shrinking the box is their way of regaining control, which is why the internet, freedom of speech, is under assault on the internet. It's a big, big part of it. But also, shrinking the box is about occupant capacity. You see, you can't stuff 30 people into a closet. And so part of shrinking that box is also where the population reduction comes in. You see, everything goes back to this box. This is where we are allowed to operate within. Nothing is supposed to get in and out of this box without their consent.
Well, I don't know if they're aware of it or not. Well, I guess you did mention this, but there's a lot of holes in this box right now. I mean, there are a lot of, they're telling on themselves, and people are actually paying attention. I mean, when the blatant stuff that's going on right now in the world, people are becoming aware of. And, I see it definitely melting away.
Well, seeing through, understanding that this little teeny tiny piece of reality is all that we're allowed to operate in, or the thought police show up, is a big part of it. But it doesn't melt away on its own. I think, I'll tell you guys kind of a funny story. One of my husband's lifelong friends wanted his car kind of rat-rotted out, as they say, and lowered. And my husband knows this guy, they've been friends for a long time, and he knows this person isn't careful. So he said, I'll do this for you, but you have to drive carefully because your car will be so much lower. He said, yeah, okay. So my husband did it for him. And a month later, he came back to our house and he was walking up the driveway and he said, yeah, my muffler just came off. I don't know what happened. And I teased him and I said, well, not all by itself. It didn't, I think that's the thing, right? I mean, limiting our free will, our choices, a lot of that is coming from or being rebranded as you don't actually have to do anything to change it. Because if we don't actually do anything to change it, it's not going to change. So the idea that it's just going to magically disappear doesn't serve us.
Right.
And I think that's something we really need to get out of.
Right. No, I mean, and I definitely agree. It's not going to disappear on its own. People actually have to do things to make this happen. And, even if it's, I think the main component here is information. It's communication. It's communication like all these different podcasts that are coming out now, these radio shows, these people that are writing some fantastic books and putting out the truth. And that people are eating this stuff up. I mean, they're really hungry for truth, and they're actually getting access to it now. Now, a tremendous amount of discernment has to be employed, for sure, because those people that are, shall we say, holding that box, are aware of what's going on, and they are throwing as many wrenches into this stuff as they can. Those shills that are out there surfing the internet just to look where they can throw a wrench at. There's I've come across quite a bit of that myself, actually. But.
That's very, very true, and it's not just what we may refer to as trolls or shills on the outside. You see, there are people on the inside also redirecting people. It's very much like, have you guys ever seen The Truman Show with Jim Carrey?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so once he figures out he's living in a phony environment, a phony reality bubble, he is determined to find the edge of it and get out of it. And once he tries to do that, all hell breaks loose. That he gets on a boat, I think he can't swim, and the waves, they amp up the waves and the lightning, and they try to flip his boat over. And something very similar was, a very similar idea was also in the Hunger Games. I don't know if you guys have seen that, where when that girl got really close to the edge,
they started burning
they started throwing fireballs at her to get her to move somewhere else. Those kinds of manipulations are coming from the inside. They're not coming from the outside. So there are people on the inside that are purposefully here to redirect us when we get too close. And I think that that's very, very important to recognize. And again, I'm going back to the idea that's really being pushed in terms of not taking action. I'm sure that people wonder why I don't do conferences, and it's not because I don't get asked to. I've even been asked to participate in a documentary. I was told who the other participants would be. They were well-known names like Dolores Cannon. I didn't participate because I'm very appreciative. Don't get me wrong. It means a lot to me that they thought of me. But I know that a lot of people ask me to participate when they have not read my work, what I've written. And especially in the first book, the majority of what I wrote is completely antithetical to doing nothing. You see. Did I lose you?
No, we're still here.
Okay.
But we have 40 seconds before going to break, so I'll let you wrap it up real quickly.
Okay. So I'm going to share things with you guys that I've never ever shared publicly before because I couldn't see how it may be helpful in terms of things that I personally have done in my own life in that regard. And why the New Age...
Actually, Crystal, hold on to that. Okay. Sorry about that. We're going on break.
Oh, well, welcome back to 100th Monkey Radio on the Truth Frequency. Oh, you've got Tom and Ramon here and Crystal Clark. We
Still
are
getting used to the commercial.
This is our inaugural show, guys. So bear with the technical hiccups that we have here. We are just getting used to this whole commercial thing. As our previous listeners know, that Ramon and I have never done the commercial thing. At least I haven't. But we did, through all these hiccups, we did manage to get the phone system hooked up and going. So we've got a couple of phone numbers here. We've got a 213-233-3998 and a toll-free 888-832-2027. So there you have it. And, for the life of me, Ramon, I don't remember, and Crystal, I don't remember where you were and what you were talking about.
I do. She was about to tell a story about how you were being invited to conferences and you were turning them down because...
Well, like I said, I understand that people have their own path, and I genuinely appreciate when people have the bravery to take it in whatever direction they think they need to go. But generally, people that invite me to things like that have not read my work and really don't know where I'm coming from. And, they may not agree with where I'm coming from if they really knew. So some of what I'm going to share with you guys today are things that I have never shared before because I never could see how it might be meaningful. But I didn't come into what I'm doing now from a religious perspective, from a New Age perspective. I didn't really even know about the New Age community. That's not the door I entered through. Even people who are in the box, like I was, can still make a difference. And the reason that I'm sharing these things is because this is really where I'm coming from in terms of why I do not and have never supported the do nothing mindset, the just pray or just meditate. That is completely the opposite of what I've written about. This first story I'm going to share with you, I actually wrote about in the first book. People can't go get the first book, so don't worry about that. I took it off the market so I could revise it. But my family and I, we moved a lot when I was young, and we moved to a small town where they were leech mining, and we were drinking well water. We all got really, really sick when we moved there. We were told by the doctors we had chronic fatigue syndrome, and don't worry about it, everybody has it, and on and on. And when I graduated at 17, I left home the next day, and a year later I was here in Las Vegas, and I subscribed to the local paper, and I had seen an article about Salt Lake City suing this mining company because they had contaminated the surface and groundwater of their communities and people were getting sick. So I called the paper and I asked, what did they find in the water? Because you see, I had family members who had worked at this mine who had carted away the carcasses of dead animals who drank from the water, the cesspools. So I knew that we were being poisoned by the chemicals that they were mining with that was going into our water supply. When I called the paper, they said, oh, we don't know. This was just a blurb we took from the Salt Lake paper. So I called the EPA and I said I wanted to report an illness linked to toxic chemicals. The EPA said, oh, no, we don't handle that. You need to go talk to the CDC. Here's the number. They gave me the number to the head of the CDC in the state. I explained the same thing to him, and he said, no, we don't handle that. You have to go to the CDC. And I said, yes, but they gave me your number. So they just sent me in circles. I very clearly explained that I knew what the problem was, but they just let me know they just didn't take it seriously. But here's the thing. I still had friends and family members who lived there. And I found out that 3 months after I made those calls, the EPA showed up very quietly and made some changes. They sectioned off all of the contaminated areas and they built new wells. So you see, while they're lying to me on the phone, they're secretly going and fixing it. And actually, and this was when I was 18 or 19, long time ago.
Were they going, oh shit, somebody found out about it?
Their actions would dictate that's the case, but they certainly weren't going to admit it to me on the phone. And really, just a couple of years ago, a friend of mine who had lived there that I lost touch with, I was telling her the story, and she said, oh, because you see, her father worked in the assay department there. And she said that's why the CDC showed up. He was wondering because it was very, very quiet. So I did what I could to take care of that, and I was just a teenager. Okay. The other thing I'm going to share that I've never shared before is that I have personally worked with the FBI on more than one occasion. I have worked with the Secret Service. I have testified in front of federal grand juries to take criminals down. I can't give you the details specifically of those cases. I can tell you that they involved ex-professional athletes, government officials, I guess what we could call NGO corporations that were taking massive amounts of public funds. And you see, I've done this many times. Truthfully, there are a few companies that I've ever worked for that were really, really corrupt that are still around. Because it's not okay, you see. It's not okay to do that to people. And, you know, what I feel is an infection coming from the New Age community right now is, well, people would say, well, you must be an indigo child. Look, I don't have any idea if that's true. And even if I did, I wouldn't admit it, because that robs other people of their personal power, doesn't it? Because, oh, well, somebody special has to fix it. It doesn't work like that. When we rebrand people as better than we are, we're not only are we not taking responsibility, we're shifting it to someone else, and again, not doing anything about it, you see. And these were things that I did from somebody trapped inside the box. You know, I mean, how much do you really have to know about out-of-body experiences and other planets to take care of what's happening in your own backyard?
Yeah, it is you got to take care of number one first, right? You're, and that's something that I get some interesting looks when I tell people this, but ultimately I am completely self-serving. And, when I say that to people, they go, you mean service to self? And like, well, that's a label that I'm not really, I don't really resonate with too well. But what I mean by that is what motivates me is my own personal happiness, my own joy, and I get joy from seeing others enjoy, being in pleasant atmospheres, living in a world that's not polluted and corrupt, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what brings me joy personally. So ultimately, that is my own self-serving motivations to, help change things around me. So, and make it better, for the best and highest good type thing. So.
Yes, that's very important. And for me, it's really just ending needless suffering, And everybody has the capacity to do that. The idea that if somebody has an extra ability, where, you can move a penny across the table or you can see in the dark, that does not make them a better human being. And that's what you really have to grasp. If we are in a position to do something to end suffering, we should do it.
Exactly. I see one danger in really looking into this stuff for some people. I don't know if it's a personality type or what, but I see people who jump into this stuff with both feet, and they are looking for, and they look for the terrible, the horrible, the horrific, the misery, the pain, the suffering, and take no actions on any of these things, but they'll continue looking at all these things, and they just I just see it in their aura, their energy field just starts getting all muddied up and black and just nasty reds, and it just totally pollutes them, and they're not focusing any of the energy that they have on fixing anything that's within their realm and their ability to do something about.
That is precisely the point. And I don't mean to put you guys on the spot, but I'm going to ask you a question. If you had to define, this phrase gets bandied about a lot, your personal power, quote, how would you define it?
How would I define personal power?
What is your personal power, or anybody's personal power?
My personal power is my ability to live my life in the way that I want to live it and affect the world around me I probably wouldn't go that in this definition, but basically the way to forge my own path in this world.
For me, it would be to tell somebody, no, that's not going to happen. You can't do that. I mean, examples when somebody tries to, someone wants to sit down and there's an old lady there, I'll put my hand up and, push his ass and just tell him, mm-mm, and then just let the old lady sit down. But of course she feels embarrassed now, so she doesn't even take it. So it's kind of like,
Aww.
But anyway, yeah. But for me, that's with the personal power, when someone tries to push you and you just let them know that you can't push me, or I see what you're doing and I'm not going to let you do it, kind of thing.
That's very, very true. What both of you said, I mean, an individual's personal power, first and foremost, is their free will and their right to act on it, to self-determine their own future. That is an individual's personal power.
Forge my own path in this world, right?
You betcha. And every time somebody says, don't actually do anything, they're telling you not to use it. You have the right to use it. It's why you have it. That's the whole point, you see. And the other part that goes along with this is the doomsday. People can go look this up, because people are very confused purposefully about what fear-mongering is. If you go look up the definition of monger, you can just go to a search engine and type in define monger, and you'll get all these different dictionaries. It will tell you that it's a false fear designed to sell you something. That's what a fear monger is, or even if you apply the word monger to fear, of course, if you apply it to a gossip monger, it has that same meaning. It's not based in reality. There's nothing real to it. But if you believe that it is, you see, that's where it becomes really handy in manipulating people.
Right.
And in this sense, every time somebody says that the problem, especially the doom from space, I can't even tell you how disempowering that is, and that it's purposeful. Because every time they tell you the problem is so far out of your reach, they are disempowering you, because they are telling you, even if you used your free will, it still wouldn't make a difference. And you see, all of this is designed to make sure that we don't ever see past the sanctioned reality box. It's very, very damaging. And on top of this, and this is something that it's very, very important to me to communicate, is it hides the real faces of the perpetrators, doesn't it?
Right.
They constantly redirect the masses and their torches and pitchforks to some new enemy. All that does is shield their own dirty faces and bloody hands, so that we will never go take up the problem with the people that really brought it to us.
Shadowboxing.
That's important. You guys know what a shakedown is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been shakedown before.
Have you?
So have I. That's why I know.
Oh, well, for people who don't know, um, a lot of people have seen this in movies where you have some mom and pop shop in kind of a poor neighborhood, and they're doing the best they can to provide a better life for their kids, and then in walks the thuggery and smashes everything and robs them, and then these thugs look at them and they say, "I think you need protection, so I'll be back on Tuesday to collect the protection money." What we are in the middle of is a global shakedown. And I think this is important to get people to understand because, again, I think that it's very disempowering to tell people, well, all of these crazy weather patterns are just the earth rebalancing herself because she's going to shake us all off like fleas on a dog. There's nothing you can do about that, right? But the truth of the matter is that our planet is under assault. There are technologies that do it. There are people that know that that's how it's happening. And their answer to it is, which is part of shrinking the box, is carbon taxes, right? So they're destroying the weather and your food sources and your crops with HARP and weather modification, but they're telling you, well, it's what you exhale, it's carbon, and so pay us some protection money and we'll fix it. And that's carbon taxes, you see.
Mm-hmm.
They are the ones that cause the problems. They tell you somebody else did it and they laugh all the way to the bank.
Problem, reaction, solution, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think there's more to it than that because it's the destruction of life, savior of life meme at this point because they're telling you you're all going to die if we don't reduce the number of people on the planet or this, that, and the other, and we'll protect you from that. But the reality is that they're causing it and constantly telling you don't do anything about it, you can't do anything about it, or the people really responsible are so far out of your reach that you couldn't even if you wanted to, is designed to ensure that they stay in power. That's all it's for. There are no evil ETs causing this. Evil ETs didn't create Corexit. They didn't cause the Gulf of Mexico disaster. They didn't create your vaccines. They're not putting fluoride in your water. This is people doing this. But if they can get you to believe that your enemy is coming from outer space, you'll never actually look at the real dirty faces and bloody hands, will you? Ever.
Well,
they constantly redirect you.
I think it's a small percentage of the population who actually is, on the whole ET bandwagon, so to say, as far as, them manipulating things here on this planet. That's a very small segment of the population. I think for the majority of the people, they're looking at the physical beings that are doing these things, and that's what I mentioned earlier was that I think that with all the blatant crap that's being thrown out in the world right now, all the exposed lies, which even though they cover them up pretty damn good in the media, it still gets out there. And with the internet, the general populace, and this I'm noticing in my own at work and in my interactions with people out in the world that aren't in the quote unquote woo woo world. They are starting to notice things, and they're all really starting to wake up and get angry. How's it go? How's that in the movie Network? What's he say? Oh, geez, I lost it. Get mad,
Well, that's another really important thing because over and over again we're being told, well, don't get angry. Think happy thoughts. Look, people have a right to be angry. They have absolutely every right. Moral outrage is important. I mean, if somebody molests your child, you're not going to go to your happy place and send the person love and light. You're going to put that person in jail and remove them from the population because you know that they're going to do that to other people, you see.
Exactly.
That's important. Hmm.
Exactly. No, there's a place for that. There's a place for that love and light and the happy stuff, and that's a good. Energetically, it's an amazing state to be in, but there is definitely a time and a place for anger, and looking out in at what's going on in the world today, there should be quite a bit of it, and I'm seeing it rise. Just like I said, I work with about 150 other guys, and the energy there that is being focused on, the system, the government, the banking systems, the even the chemtrails now. I've got guys that are actually that I haven't talked to that are noticing these things. So, I'm seeing people starting to wake up and
Very true. I mean,
yeah.
personally, this last year, especially the last 3 months, it is so awesome for me to go to my Facebook page and find my feed is littered with chemtrails and people who've come out with documentaries and vaccines, how people that get vaccinated actually get the disease, and how that's all garbage. Because it wasn't always like that,
Right.
It was just me and a handful of other people constantly putting this in the feed, and then you would get the new age intercession. Well, we need to get beyond the fear. Well, yeah. Hey, look, I would like to too, and I'm not afraid of dying, but I certainly don't want to do it in an artificial sense, where people have to suffer in ways that aren't necessary just so a small group of people can maintain power over the entire planet. That's not okay with me.
So, Crystal, what about the whole creating your own reality idea? That because I truly I actually know that there is a definite element of creation that happens from each and every one of us that's projected into the world, and so how's that tie into what you're talking about here?
There absolutely is. I personally healed myself from something where I was going to have an organ removed if I didn't. And my doctor was so shocked when I went back. I had surgery and there were complications and they were doing biopsies. And I knew that when I went back, if the news wasn't good, that I was going to have this organ removed, and it was something I really didn't want to see happen. I worked really, really hard and I healed it. And when I went back to my doctor, she was, doing the checkup, and she said, "Oh my God." And I thought, "Uh-oh, it's bad." That's what I thought. And I said, "What is it?" And she looked at me and she said, "I can't tell you've ever had surgery." So I know, I don't mean to, exclude that in anything that I'm saying, because, I wrote a lot about that too in the first book. But the thing is, it's like, I've used this story before, this lesson, this story. It's not okay to say, "Well, I don't mind if you come and stab me in the heart every day because I can fix it." Well, so you spend all day fixing it, and then at night somebody sneaks in and they stab you in the heart again, and you spend all day fixing it, and you see, you don't get anywhere, because now your time is dictated by someone else. You have to use all of your time to heal what was done to you, and it's this vicious circle. We chase our tails. We don't actually make progress. So yes, people can heal themselves, but we need to get to a place where they shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. The other thing you were saying about anger. Anger is very important, but unchecked anger can be dangerous, because of course, if you see someone doing something wrong, hey, no, you can't do that. But if you have unchecked anger, then it's easy to manipulate you as well. So when people are getting upset because they're realizing what's happening on this planet, that's where you have to be careful, because it's so easy to misdirect and be like, he did it, and then you just get the angry mob chasing people around.
That's very, very true. I know
And-
you guys have heard this saying. A lot of people have that the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off.
Exactly.
And you know, enlightenment also has a very, very manipulated and skewed view. People act like, well, it's all love and light. No, it's not. It is a destructive process. Absolutely. It tears away everything that you have clung to that does not serve you. And that's important.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you clean it all up. And yeah, people have a right to be mad, but if they don't really understand who and what caused.
Crystal, let me cut you off. We're going into break soon, and just want to let everybody know you're listening to the 100th Monkey Radio Show with Crystal Clark and Tom and Ramon. Actually, I'm Ramon and Tom's over there.
That would be me.
So we'll be going on break and talk to you guys on the flip side.
We'll be taking calls in the second hour. 832-027. Now
I don't care about what you heard while the rumors are flying. Don't believe a word. Got one thing to tell you, I've got to say. Give it a chance, now don't push it away. Got a bad reputation.
well, welcome back. We are back with Crystal Clark, Tom and Ramon on the 100th Monkey Radio, our inaugural show with the Truth Frequency. And I have music. Yeah, I think we're going to have to shorten that dead air time between the end of the commercial and the music there, but we'll get this all figured out.
So let's give out those.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, you guys go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna give out the numbers real quick. 213-233-3998, and the toll-free number is 888-832-2027. Go ahead, Crystal.
So we were talking about anger, and here I'll tell you what I learned. Those people that I took down, what I realized is that because I was the only one doing it, 10 more take their place. So, the idea that you can just go, kill the person that you're mad at, look, that is a huge waste of time. It doesn't solve anything, because people have to understand the underlying matrix that creates these people, that allows them to exist and persist, and how we are also responsible for allowing it. The system has to be put back where it belongs, so that 10 more people can't come up and take the place of the first one who went to jail, you see. And a big part of this, this is where self-responsibility comes back into focus, because people want somebody else to fix it. They're being taught to want somebody else to fix it, because that goes back to the people in charge of the shakedown. Sure, we'll fix it, but you're going to pay for it. So the corruption needs to be addressed. It's not that we need more laws, it's that the laws are not applied to everyone. And why is that? Because anybody who is protecting that sanctioned thought perimeter is going to be protected themselves. And that has to be taken into account, and it has to be stopped. A guy goes into a convenience store and he robs the guy for $150 maybe to feed his family. He'll go to jail for life. But if people steal trillions of dollars, they get a fine. Why is there the disparity? Because the people that get fined are protecting the borders of that perimeter. That's why.
Right.
And you see that's where corruption comes in. Because all of the corruption we see is about protecting that border. That's all it's for.
I think a lot of them that are doing that are completely ignorant of what they're doing too. I think there's a lot of them that are completely oblivious to the fact that is what they're doing. They're just playing the game the way they were taught.
Well, that's part of it, but I'm sure you've heard people say everybody has their price.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is that everybody does not have their price. I don't have a price, do you?
I don't think so.
But they do. Those people have to be addressed. What and the societal mechanisms that create people that have a price have to be addressed. You see, what contributes to a person who feels like they need that to survive in the system? Get rid of the system that promotes it.
Yeah.
You know, and the useless eater. I see that we're coming up to another break, so we'll come back to this. But Ramon, you mentioned emotionally manipulating people, and I want to talk about that because you cannot emotionally manipulate people if they don't actually care, which is the complete opposite of the useless eater garbage we're being fed.
Right.
We'll be back with Tom and Ramon and Crystal Clark on the 100th Monkey Radio Show. Turned out. Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio Show with Tom and Ramon and Crystal Clark on the Tree Frequency Radio. And we'll pick up where we were talking about anger and how easily that could be manipulated.
That's very, very true, but there's a reason. And I talked quite a bit about emotional manipulation in the first book and how it needs to be partnered. Our emotions, when people are really emotionally charged, and I know you guys know this, you can't reason with them. And so it's really important that we partner our anger with proper knowledge, because then we can channel that anger into correcting the problem, and then it won't be repeated. And that's how we end the suffering. Because anger is usually a response to suffering at some point. So if we can understand where it's really coming from, we can work on changing it. And we would want somebody to do that for us, wouldn't we? If we were suffering and somebody knew what the real problem was, we would want them to take care of it if they understood how and we didn't. The other part to this, though, is that we don't have proper knowledge. We don't have proper knowledge of the systems that create, regenerate, and uphold life at the macro scale and the micro scale and their interactions with each other. We don't have that knowledge because if we did, we could not be emotionally manipulated. But the other part to that is I personally am so upset over the constant repetition of overpopulation and the useless eaters and the mindless breeders sucking up all the resources. I mean, there are commercials about this now. And these commercials are encouraging people to participate in their own demise out of ignorance and emotional manipulation. And so those two things kind of go together. I mean, you can't emotionally manipulate an educated person because they know better, first of all. But second of all, I really want people to understand this. This is so important. Debasing the human mind is a necessary component of this type of manipulation. Because first and foremost, if people really were useless eaters and mindless breeders and selfish destructors, you could not emotionally manipulate them because they wouldn't care. Do you see? You can only manipulate people because they do care. And this is why whenever I can, I say, and I say it because I mean it, I really do believe that most of the people on this planet are good people. They want better. They just don't know how to get it. And I really believe that, you know? And I think that's important because there was an article that I had written on my blog that somebody had responded to, and I, replied to their response where they said, well, basically I'm just disgusted with my fellow humans, and I think, plants and animals have more consciousness. And I explained to this person with my reply, I understand how they feel, but I also know that it's intended, you see, because when the people who have locked us into this phony reality box to protect their own power, when they can, that's their sickness, isn't it? That's their psychopathy, that we're all useless eaters. And it's really important that we don't let that infect us, because then we're on their side, aren't we? Then we are again, we need to make sure that their sickness doesn't become our sickness. And when I hear a person say, well, yeah, I'm really disgusted with my fellow man, I know that person has been infected with their sickness. And I know a lot of work went into ensuring that they would be.
I've been there, though. I've been in that state where I am just totally disgusted with my fellow man. I just like, okay, come on, guys. You're just not getting it. Are you that stupid? I've gone that full route. And it just took growth on my part to understand what was being played out within me.
What was being played out through you. You see, you were
Correct.
manipulated into accepting that people are useless sheep. I mean, look, I recently heard a researcher whose name I'm not going to use, say, well, there's a sheeple gene. Look, that's just stupid. No, there isn't.
A sheeple gene?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Look. Oh, I swear to God. And this is a very well-known personality who went on a show and said that.
They weren't trying to be serious with this, were they?
They were absolutely serious, yes.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely, 100% serious that there's a sheeple gene.
Is that why I grow my goatee? Sorry.
Now, along those lines, though, Crystal, I think there are things that are being done to us that create the sheeple mentality through, within our physiology. I mean, we've got, the fluorides, the chemtrails, the crap that's out there that is dumbing us down, so to say, or making us passive. I mean, look at fluoride. Oh, my God. I mean, they used it in the prison camps in World War II to make the prisoners more docile.
The education system, too. I mean, because from the beginning, if you're not like everyone else, they'll manipulate you. Like, there's a story, you probably heard about it. There's a 16-year-old girl in somewhere, I think it was in Texas or New Mexico, and her parents said they would not accept the chip that they had to wear a badge to school. So in the school, they know where the kid's at all time, and they said no, we would not wear the badge. And so the teachers consistently would like give candy to everybody else. Oh, but she doesn't get any because she won't wear her badge. So they use this form of ridicule, like, oh, you're crazy, you want to be an outcast in order not to be part of society. You're destroying society.
You're not conforming.
Yeah. So they make you sound like you're the bad person for not accepting their rules and regulations.
That's right. You guys are really plugged in tonight. That's very true. And I addressed that in the article. And really, the name of your show is based on the philosophy of the 100th monkey washing their potatoes. Mm-hmm. Well, that was a good thing, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
But you see, that can also be manipulated in reverse, can't it? What if they were all taught a bad thing? You see? And peer pressure is a big, big part of making sure that people go with the flow. And this is another reason that at this particular time, I'm not really looking forward to doing public lectures. And what I'm about to say will likely offend some people, and I don't mean for it to. But throughout my life, the reason that I know people so well is because I have spent my life working with them one-on-one. I have had nearly complete strangers come to me and tell me things that I don't think they've ever shared with another living soul. And when you work one-on-one with a person, that peer pressure doesn't exist. You can go very deep and you can go right to the core of the issue and you can really help that person. Crowd settings are very, very different, because people are wondering, well, what if she said something that I know the people here don't agree with? I don't want to be caught agreeing with her in public, you see. That is used more than people realize. People behave very, very differently in a group, very differently.
Right.
And, we know this from animal behavior. Chihuahuas, especially, they're not very tough when they're alone, but when they're in a group, they think they're tough, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And it just changes the way people perceive, because they're not completely plugged in. It's like an actor who's not really a good actor on television, because you can tell that they're not really into what the role they're playing is, because you can see that a part of them is wondering, where's the camera right now? Is it watching me? You see what I'm saying? The attention is divided. And so it's really hard to make progress. And for me, that's why I prefer writing, because it's more personal. People can mull it over, they can think about it, and there's nobody there to ridicule or shame them, because their thoughts are their own in that sense. And I like that. I really do.
I think there's a lot of power in the written word too, as far as that whole manifestation thing and creating your own reality. I think people who write regularly, who journal, have a tendency. I don't know that there's ever been any studies done on this, but I sense that there's. I've heard reports from other people who say that the journaling thing has been a fantastic way to get their energy out there, to express themselves, and oh my God, there's some amazing things that happen when you start journaling, as far as connection with your higher self, things coming through in the writing that you didn't realize that you had.
That's a really great point, Tom, because why would a person journal? It's because they can't tell anybody else. Why? Because they will be judged. They will be judged based on what our social engineering has told us is important.
Right.
A journal is personal. They can tell a journal. If they could tell people, would they tell a journal? And what you were saying earlier about the fluoride and all of that is very, very true, because again, this goes back to that box. Our sanctioned and predetermined version of reality, that box that we are stuck in, so that the people that work outside of it can maintain their power base. What they're doing is they are steering the human population away from a course of natural evolution, because they can't maintain their control if we are allowed to take that path.
Right.
They can't do it.
Right.
So that is a big part of it, and I really do try to keep that in mind when I'm dealing with people that are having a really hard time with things, because I know that they're eating food that has excitotoxins in it. I know that they're drinking fluoridated water. I know that there's a lot going on. But I also know that if people could just focus on what does it take to ensure that we don't self-destruct, it's sad to me, truthfully, that people want to argue over who and what created all of this, while Rome burns in the background, which is what was created. At what point can we stop squabbling over who created it and just understand it enough that we don't destroy it in the process?
Right.
Why isn't that more important? Because we are participating in our own demise out of ignorance, because we are not being told how this all works. And we're not being told because it's being weaponized and abused against us by the same people that run everything.
There's a lot of disagreement on how it should be fixed too, though, Crystal.
Well, that goes back to having proper knowledge, because if people had proper knowledge of how this system works, again, you can't manipulate them into doing something that doesn't benefit them, because
Right.
they will understand it. And I mean, that's the whole point, is making sure that people are too confused, because proper knowledge is how you balance the emotions. And we can't be emotionally manipulated if we have proper knowledge. Those two things go together. And I've used this story before. You guys have heard it, I'm sure. Look, I am very critical and suspicious of the love is all you need thing, because there are so many people out there who have autistic children because they love their children and they vaccinated them because they loved them, but they didn't know any better. Love is not all we need. It will be manipulated and used to our detriment if we don't have the proper knowledge that goes with it. And this is another reason why especially lately, I've been particularly outspoken about the doom from space nonsense and the ET invasion nonsense, because it took me a few years to write the first book. I finished it in 2008, but I sat on it for a year to make sure that I didn't outgrow it. And I've heard you talk about this before, Tom, and it's very true. You can grow so fast that you can write something one day and 3 days later you've grown past it.
Right.
So I sat on it for a year before I released it, and during that time I thought, okay, I'm at a good place, I feel good about it. But even then, at the time, when I started, I had come across statistics that said 1 in every, I think it was 125 children were autistic. And by the time I got to the end, I had come across a statistic that said it was 1 in 65 children. The other day, somebody posted on my wall that that's down to 1 in 25 children.
Wow.
So if people really think that what you really need to worry about is we're all going to die in 2012 and some, doom from space, comet, or ETs, I can assure you that is not the case. That is not the case at all. The people, there's a really great quote that I used on another show recently, and I still don't remember the fellow's name, and I feel bad about it because I like to, give people their due, but he said the planet is not dying, it's being killed, and the people doing it have names and addresses, and they do. They absolutely do. And they should be subject to the same laws that we are, but they aren't. That has to change.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And, at the same time, I've written about this before, and we can get into this deeper if you guys would like when we come back from the break coming up. But, there's been all this doom around 2012, and I've written about this before, both in the first book and the second book. It is an opportunity for change that we have never had before. And I would like to see it used properly. But there are people that know it is an opportunity for change, and in their eyes, change means unseating them from their power. So they are going to try to, redirect people around that box, just like in the show with Jim Carrey and the Hunger Games, so that people won't scale that wall with what they know. But it's time, it's time. And I really do think that there are people who are suddenly realizing through these changes that whether by hook or by crook, they have been part of maintaining that wall.
Right.
And don't like it anymore. And that's a big, big change. And I know that a lot of people right now are
Hello?
Oh, we lose you, Crystal?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know that emotions are running really very, very high right now because of the changes that are happening, but the changes that are happening are forcing people to face their own involvement in the kind of world we have. And that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to face. But it's time.
And I think ultimately it all starts with each one of us and being able to look at ourselves and be able to, eventually look in the mirror and be able to tell that person, I love you, I respect you, I forgive you. That forgiveness is really huge for self, as far as being able to move forward and be productive with what you're doing.
It's essential, yeah. It's essential because we just have to go, okay, you know what? I didn't get it then, but I get it now. I made a mistake, but now that I can see that it's a
Crystal,
mistake.
sorry, let me cut you off because.
Sure.
Well, we'll catch you on the flip side. You're listening to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon and Crystal Clark.
Good morning, at the dome. The time will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly.
You are listening to Tom and Ramon with the 100th Monkey Radio and our special guest, Crystal Clark. Now, Crystal, we kind of cut you off right in the middle of a sentence there.
That's all right. That's all right. The changes that are happening right now, this is another thing you guys know because you read the first book, that I talked about this a lot in terms of the as above, so below connection. What happens up there affects us down here. It absolutely does. Are there people that take advantage of that in ways they shouldn't? Yeah, they do. And one of the ways that they do it is by making sure you think that it's all garbage, that there is no connection, right? Oh, it's just, superstition, astrology doesn't really mean anything. It does. There absolutely is a connection. That's the way the program is designed. Those connections exist for a reason and not a bad reason. And this again feeds the fear-mongering when people don't understand that, because I don't know if you guys have noticed, and I meant to bring this up earlier today so you could see it for yourself, but for the last few days, the sun is rising farther south again. I don't know if you've noticed. And the moon is a little off. I think some adjustments are being made in a good way, because do we have earthquakes and doom everywhere? No, we don't. And that's important,
The sun's actually been very calm the last couple of days.
It has, but even when it is, people say, oh, there's the CME coming. Well, then 2 days later, everybody forgets about it. Why do they forget about it? Did it do any damage? No. So people forget about it. And I think that's important. I think one of the reasons that I find James Horak's work so interesting in what he discusses about the EMVs is because that is so beautiful. That we could be so loved and protected that there are forces at work that make sure that this planet has everything it needs to get where it's supposed to go, and that is not interfered with. And there are NASA videos that come out constantly that show this. They show these objects getting in front of CMEs that do face the Earth that perhaps would have been devastating. There's a lot going on up there. It's really beautiful. But people are so locked into survival mode inside of the box that in a way, even trying to discuss it, the only reason to do it is to reaffirm to them that they are loved and cared for, and people are robbed of that. Every time the next doomsdayer comes along and says, oh, the Nemesis comet is coming to kill you, or, you're all going to die in 2012. Look, that is absurd. None of that is true. Anything that goes wrong on this planet is purposefully done. It's part of the shakedown. It's part of the social engineering, part of the perception management, part of the control system. It's coming from here. And I understand that people are emotionally charged right now because they're having to face their own participation into what we have happening on this planet, and it's not particularly good. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? It was never supposed to be this way. And the idea that, well, this is, you can only learn through suffering, that doesn't serve anybody either, because that is getting you to accept suffering so that you can learn. When in fact, if you had been told the truth about what it takes to create, regenerate, and uphold life and how that all works, would you need to suffer to learn it if they would just tell it to you? Of course not. Right?
Well,
Yeah.
on the overall, yes, I would agree with that. But I think there's some things that have been learned through this suffering that, and I don't know if this is soul destiny or what, that something that our souls need to experience. But there's something to be said for the strength that people have gained through that suffering. And I'm not trying to condone or support the way the system has come down. I'm just saying from my personal perspective and what I've experienced and learned through this life, I've become a much stronger person through what I've gone through than I think what I would have been had it, been handed to me on the proverbial platter, so to say.
I absolutely understand what you're saying. And I would add to that if you grew from the suffering that was perpetrated upon you, you get the credit for that, not them. And that's very, very important, because there are people who operate outside of that perimeter who really believe that it is through putting you through hell and making you suffer that you will learn, and then they get the credit for it. That's perverted, and it's cruel, and it's wrong.
Yeah, that is pretty twisted.
It is twisted. I mean, that's like saying, well, you're never going to know that molesting a child is wrong until you get molested. I mean, that's stupid. If you personally learn to grow from what has been done to you, you get the credit for that. And you see, that's another thing that I think people should look at, is how disempowering is it to the individuals currently living on this planet to tell you that every great wonder of the ancient world was built by somebody from another planet, that you couldn't have done it, right? How do you know? How do you know it wasn't just people that did it? Because you see, the farther we go down this road, the less knowledge we have. We lose it. We purposefully lose it. It's taken from us, and we get. It's like a clone in a sense, The more times you clone it, the less integrity it has. The more times we do this, in some ways, the better the people that control it get. And they're really good at making sure that not just our failures, but even our successes are pawned off onto other people. And that's not okay with me,
Right.
Something incredible in the past absolutely could have been done by human beings. And to say that ETs did it is wrong, because I think it really was human beings. I think it was a previous lineage who maybe made it a little farther down the road than we did. And we deserve that credit.
Absolutely.
And it's just like, it's just like, and for a time, I almost went down this road myself before I was kind of reeled back in. How much credit do we give to the universe, right? Some universal personality for how things turn out for us. Did we not actually make it happen ourselves? Is it really, everything that goes on here, we cause or create? And to pawn that off onto an all-knowing being who just magically snapped his fingers and made it happen is also disempowering.
Yeah,
and
see,
I think we actually...
I think that's something that's changing right now, as far as the way people perceive that universal being and what that thing is. Me personally, I'm seeing it less and less as a being, and more as let's go Star Trek-y here, the Force. The fabric, the material that we have to work with that we have to work with. Tom has to work with, Crystal has to work with, Ramon has to work with. That's just the material that's out there that's malleable to our consciousness. That's more and more the way I'm seeing it, and I'm seeing more and more people that are actually starting to see it less and less as a individuated consciousness or being.
That is so very true, because look, we were given everything that we needed to fully express ourselves into this reality so that we may add to it our love, our ingenuity, our kindness, and we're being robbed of that. We get the credit for what happens here based on exactly what you said. What have we done with what has been provided?
One huge example for me from that, it's somebody who's become my personal hero in the last couple of years, and I even posted a picture of him on my wall, and it's not you, Tom.
Oh.
Mahatma Gandhi, because if you talk about, because the first thing when you talk about these things to people, the first thing that comes out their mouth, and I'm just generalizing, speaking of the average person, is I'm just one person. There's nothing I can do. So they disempower themselves. And when you take somebody like Mahatma Gandhi, who granted didn't do everything by himself, but was the force behind everything. And, when he said, well, we're not going to buy your salt anymore, we're going to go make our salt. And they beat the crap out of him, time and time after again, threw him in jail. And he said, he still went on and did it anyway. He defied them. At every turn he was able to do was defy them. The reason why I bring him up is because I feel that if we want to make a change on this world, we have to look at those who burned that path, who set that example. And that would be somebody, for me personally, would be somebody like Mahatma Gandhi, who, barefoot, broken glasses, bad teeth, and a sheet around his waist, changed the world.
That's very, very true. It's very, very true. And I think why this is so hard for people to recognize now is because we have been trained for instant gratification. And very much like that story I shared earlier about contacting the EPA and the CDC, they took every opportunity they could find to make sure I would believe I wasn't really making a difference. But I did. They weren't going to admit it. And at the same time, it took a long time before I realized it made a difference. And I didn't realize it because they were willing to admit it. And I think that's important, because it may take decades before we really understand how far the ripples traveled from the stone one person dropped into that water. But it makes a difference. One person can make a difference, and the difference is not going to happen any other way but one person at a time.
Right. Now, I've actually recently, well, not necessarily recently, I've been doing this for quite a while, but I'm getting much more proficient at it. The way I look at events and, the tragedies that are going on, the turmoil that's going on out there, is I'm kind of playing a little retraining of my thought processes, the way I'm looking at these things, and trying to put a more energetically positive terminologies to what I'm observing. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but I'm taking something and Mother Teresa said this. She said, "I will not go to a war rally, but I will go to a peace rally." That type of twisting of the terminology to change the energetics that I'm projecting out into the world myself. And I honestly feel that this has an effect on the world around me and the way things that are working in my personal life. And just like that stone that's dropped in the water, it does ripple out from me, and energetically it ripples out from me, and it's adding to the change to a different, a different outcome than what the masses are perceiving right now. But I don't know. Have you seen that, or do you understand? You understand what I'm talking about there? First off.
I do. I think that our perspective on that has been very, very skewed because I think it has a lot more to do, instead of using the word energy, which doesn't really say anything, I think it has a lot more to do with expectation, what we expect to see done and why we expect it, and our participation in manifesting that expectation with our hands and our actions. You know, it's not just the people, part of the perception management and the mass mind control and the social engineering, that is based on the fundamental understanding of these people we call, the controllers, the global handlers, whatever name you want to give them. They know that mind is the builder because where the mind goes, the actions follow. They know what the mystics know, but they're abusing it. That's very, very important.
Right.
What we expect to see, if we really believe that that's what we should expect, our actions will make it happen. Again, yeah, I mean, yes, the power of our own mind does have, like I said, I mean, I healed myself after I had a surgery, and my doctor couldn't tell I ever had the surgery. Yeah, we can do that, but is that really the best use of our time? If we're being forced to do it repeatedly and not being able to expand our contributions and awareness and understanding into the world in other ways.
Oh, I believe it's a combination of all these things, Crystal. I think it's definitely a combination of action and the mind, and being able to project out there your intention, your desire for the goal. Well, you want to put your goal out there. You have to be able to see that. That's part of the whole manifestation thing, right? You have to be able to see what the final outcome is. And even while you're in the trenches fighting that battle, or cleaning up that lake or whatever you're doing to in the action aspect of it, but you have to. It's a combination of all these different things. It's body, mind, and spirit, right?
It absolutely is. I just think that we need to be careful about accepting the thought alone can fix it.
Right.
Because the problem is way too. There are too many, and they are too great for that approach alone to fix things.
Oh, I agree.
Which goes back
100%.
to what. I mean, that goes back to what Ramon said about Gandhi. Gandhi didn't intend to do what Ramon said he did. He did it. And that's what made the difference.
Right.
And once one person does it, and this goes back to the crowd mentality, because nobody wants to go first. I mean, there really are very few pioneers because the social engineering via peer pressure has been so effective. People are afraid to be ridiculed. They're afraid to stand out. They're afraid to go first. But it's contagious because, the three of us aren't, we're not geniuses, right? I mean, what we're talking about, I know for a fact other people are thinking about. But they aren't going to say it if they believe that the groups that they're involved with don't agree with it. So once somebody is not afraid to say, yeah, this is the problem and this is what we do about it, then other people feel empowered, And I think that's important because we inspire other people have inspired us. It's always a two-way street.
Yeah, I would go back to Gandhi really quickly, and the first time he actually did something was in South Africa, and he was burning his visa paper, and it was only him, and the crowd of Indian people were just watching, and the police came, and they actually broke his hand. And even with his broken hand, he continued to burn it, and then they just knocked him out and threw him in jail. And then other people saw his bravery and were able to do it. Now, I'm not saying go out and get beat up by the police and stuff like that, but at some time and moment, your bravery is going to be tested, and that doesn't mean that you go out and get a gun and shoot at them. That means that sometimes you might have to get slapped and still stand up and say, no, I will not go down.
Well, at least, That's so true, and I think that I think where a lot of people are really struggling. You hear a lot of people say, "Oh, yes, yes, I believe I have a soul," and that really is my core self, but they don't behave like it. If people really believed that and had that connection, they would do what Gandhi did, because they would know there is a better place to go than this if I'm not willing to try to change this. Do you see what I'm saying? This isn't supposed to be the way it is. And why would we not try to change it? A fear of death? Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, yeah, suffering sucks, of course, but this is supposed to be our paradise, you know? And to just say, well, yeah, it's not, so what? I'm going to just go over here and do my thing. That's sad. That's sad to me, because people deserve the paradise that has been created for them. They deserve it, and they have to make sure it's preserved so that they can enjoy it. And there's nothing to be afraid of in doing that, This is a really beautiful place. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's so beautiful. The dolphins, the plant life, the animals, the people. It's beautiful. And when people, it really is sad. The Toms and the Ramones. And it's really sad when people say, well, this is a prison planet and ET's forced us to reincarnate here. That's really sad, because it's a beautiful place. It really is. And the only thing that's not beautiful about it is what we've done with and to it.
Right.
And that's in our lap.
Yeah. So we're down to the last 5 minutes, and I want to give you a chance to give parting statements. When's the third book coming out? Because I'm so desperate to read that third one. I finished your second one a while back, and I'm so excited to find out what happens next. It's such a well-written book.
Ramon, she's going to break our hearts here. Listen.
Oh, no. Okay, well, maybe a little. Well, I want to see humanity continue on. What is reality? Is it a wave or a particle and all that great stuff? I want people to be able to explore that, but we have to survive the now first. And so that's by necessity, because I love the people on this planet, is my focus right now. I mean, it just is. I really want to get there, but I do want to talk about 2012 very quickly. And because you read the second book, that I included this in the storyline, in that this year, before we even get to those dooms dates, right, is about helping people to see that certain things and people are not who and what they said they were. And that's essential to the kind of world we want to have. We have to go through that process.
Right.
But I will tell you that I think that something really beautiful and wonderful is going to happen during those 3 days. And for a while, I wasn't sure we would get this far, but we did. And I can't tell you how happy I am about that, because, in the storyline I wrote about that and how special it is for us that we were able to get to this moment. Because I learned this through tarot, actually, which I talked about. If people go look at the Hanged Man and the World card, the 20 and the 12, it's a beautiful representation of seeing it all as far as the mind can see in that moment. Really understanding every bad thing we've done for what it is, every good thing we've done for what it is, without somebody fogging it up and muddying the water. And I'm excited for that moment, because I think that if we can really harness it, wow, big changes are coming. I'm looking forward to it. They should have a pen and paper ready, because it will be Epiphany Central. Take advantage of it.
Yeah. So where you said you took the first one off the market now?
I did, and and I want people to know it's really sad, because the used copies are up in the thousands of dollars now, which is really sad.
Really?
Please don't go buy it. Please, look, I wrote it. I wouldn't pay that much for it.
Buy it. Heck, I might sell mine. Oh, just kidding.
The blog that I'm working on is really what I would have focused on in the second book anyway, and it's what's most important at the moment. So, and it's free, and again, it's drowninginabsurdity.wordpress.com. So, and the article that I was talking about a moment ago, which goes along with what we talked about, I will put up on the blog this evening so people can check back and go look at it, because it's much more in depth and precise, because writing just has a tendency to let you do that.
Right. Well,
Yeah, the part 2, I would suggest reading. It's a very thick book, but it was such an easy read for me. It's surprising because smaller books would take me a long time, but I went through your book like I think 3 weeks.
it engages the imagination quite well too, and I love that.
Very well. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it takes you there, and you go through the emotions. Like, I won't mention who, but one of the characters gets killed. And I get so pissed off. That was really.
But it was a beautiful death, wasn't it?
It was, but I was upset because it was just like, no, because I got really attached to her, and then I was really pissed off. Well, anyway, I'm giving too much.
Crystal, we're about running down on time here, and I just want to make sure I express this to you that I know, I'm sure Ramon feels the same way. We both love you with all our hearts, and we really, really, really support everything that you're doing, and we just want the best for you. And want you to keep happy, keep that love in your heart, and continue keeping on, because what you're doing is helping so many people. You're opening eyes, you're opening hearts, and you're opening minds. And there's nothing else that I see right now in this world that's more important than doing those 3 things. So we love you.
Oh, I love you guys too. I really do. I've told you before, you're my brothers from another mother. I just, you're kindred spirits, and it's just easy with you guys because there's a connection there, and it's just really delightful. I love you both dearly, and I'm proud of you for your own contributions. You guys are doing a great job.
I want to thank everybody for joining us on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. Our website's www.thehundredthmonkeyradio.com, and that's all spelled out. I invite you over to join with us. Namaste.
Good night.